All right, we are here taking a look at Princess Paladin, and I am joined by DreamHost and Pavel. Thank you so much for coming on the stream. And yeah, let's get right into it. Can you each, I guess we're sort of going alphabetically, can you talk a little bit about your background in game development and what your role on this project was?
Yeah, sure. First, thanks for having us. I'm DreamHost for Roy. I'm a game designer, currently employed at a company called Chimpworks. We make mobile games, and yeah, I've kind of done studied game design. This year is my first job. That's kind of my background, I suppose, for game dev.
Nice. And then Pavel?
Yeah, I'm Pavel. Yeah, I basically started out of nothing and I came to the Netherlands to study. And I also went to the same school as Roy. And yeah, I there was a indie game developer, but I had to specialize, so I chose programming. And yeah, that's kind of what I did on the game. Yeah, we're also colleagues. I also work at Chimpworks. And yeah, I've done a couple of game jams before, like a couple of dozen actually. So yeah, not our first rodeo.
Nice. All right, so you have some experience working together as a team?
Yeah, most definitely, and I think that definitely helped as well. The third dev that could quite make it, also another colleague of ours, Wouter. He did the art, and just the fact that we work together on a daily basis most definitely helped in figuring out what everybody was going to do.
Nice. Yeah, that's it's great if you have the opportunity to sort of like take your working relationship with each other and apply that towards a jam project. So yeah, that I guess we can move on to the next question then. Can you talk a little bit about the inspiration behind this game?
Yeah. I think it was quite funny when GMTK actually in the video went over. You're basically playing as the name
Elizabeth from Bioshock.
Elizabeth from Bioshock. That's exactly the inspiration we took. After a while, initially we also kind of started with that Vampire Survivors idea, kind of swarming enemies on screen. And reversing the roles of escort missions. And we just kind of took that reverse roles all the way. Initially, it was going to be a knight and his squire. Then we thought, no, I think a princess being the hero instead of the knight would be an interesting idea. We kind of rolled with that.
Yeah, and something like from all the game jams I've done, I've had times where we've dwelt for a whole day thinking about the concept. And this was the first time where we were just like, hey, why don't we just reverse those roles? And everyone was on the board, and we just started working on the game, and it was like the best feeling ever. To just have all the time to, yeah, develop.
Nice. It is great. I know exactly what you mean in terms of things just like coming together like that, because sometimes you can just really get stuck and then have to spend a lot of time just sort of thinking about like, oh, are we going to make this? Are we going to make that? And when you only have 48 hours, it just really eats into your time. So, yeah, I think the inspiration is a good one. I think the execution here, at least as far as I've seen, is it's all working quite well so far. So, yeah, can we talk a little bit about the actual development process, how this all came together?
Yeah, it's at this point, I do feel that when it comes to jams, I have kind of a template almost that I stick to, kind of very much a planning of you spend this much time on, you know, we try to get the concept on the first night, and then pretty much wrap up the game in the second day, and really try to push for that, get it feature complete by that first day, so that on day two it's just polish, it's just including things that were missed. 99% of the time this obviously doesn't happen, but that striving kind of helps give you time for the small things that help in really polishing the game up. I think for this one, we did kind of have that base gameplay. We had the bats in, we had the hero in, we had a weapon in by the end of the day, by the end of the first day. And then we could move on to adding more weapons, making sure that the princess behaved correctly, all those kinds of things by day change.
Yeah, so you say like more weapons. Was there a draft for like a third weapon type in the game?
It exists. It actually happened after the game jam because we had enough problems getting these two in, and the third one we wanted to get in. It's kind of a bomb, so to have a single use weapon, get a little bit more tactical depth in replacing the weapon that you currently have if you get swarmed. But yeah, the initial hope was to get 3 in, but with how much trouble we already had with the first and then the second, we were just like, nope, we're cutting it off here. Let's just make sure these work and feel good.
Yeah, it's not something that I ask all that often, but is there, like, aside from the weapon, any other enemy types, any other concepts or stuff that you had in mind that you wanted to include in the game but didn't have a chance due to time constraints?
I think it was mostly about, yeah, kind of interactions that we didn't have time for. So we initially had an idea for adding poison, like damage over time effects to the game, so that you would have to have an antidote that also spawned around, or more abilities for the character you play as. But those relatively quickly fell to the wayside once we realized we only had 2 days.
Yeah, we really went for the MVP approach. Like, even, being able to throw weapons was something that we're like, oh yeah, we have like an hour left. Let's see if we can get that in, and thankfully it worked.
Wow. So that's the axe weapon really just came in at the last second there?
Yeah, and also being able to pass on weapons to your princess.
I see, like tossing them to her, because I've been like just walking up to her and passing her the stuff, but you can also like throw stuff to her, or you sort of drop it, but you can. I see, if you have momentum. Yeah.
The way you use it's kind of like more of an end game tactic, because you can't really reach her when she's surrounded by all the enemies.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that. Oh, she needs help. There's one. I don't know if I'm gonna make it. We're not gonna make it. So yeah, we got the sort of like high score based game. What sort of numbers have you seen people getting?
I think the highest I saw was 2,000, around 2,000 to 2,100. There's definitely some people that got very into it. Even a friend on Discord that I showed the game, he played it for like 3 hours straight, just yelling the entire time. Yeah, no, 2,000 seems to be a bit of a hard limit with the limitations that we accidentally imposed on due to resources limits and all that.
Yeah, I also personally got to 2,000, and then once Roy's friend started playing, I was like, I have to prove myself, but it kind of never really happened again. It was like a one-time fluke, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean the sheer number of enemies that you have spawning, I imagine it just eventually becomes like overwhelming. Like your character just dies way too quickly.
Yeah, pretty much. It's and with the way that the princess moves as well, she'll loop back on places you've been in, and those are lacking in resources then. So
gotcha.
That is an unintended oversight on our part.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Is she just following a path?
Yeah, so pretty much there is a path, but also there's another behavior every so often where if there's enemies nearby, she goes towards them and then continues back on the path.
Mm-hmm.
And then when she's out of a weapon, she comes towards you.
Okay, cool. So she does actually try to pathfind towards you if she can.
Yeah, it's a very basic going straight towards you, because there's not really any obstacles. Even the pillars are just circular ones, so she just slides around them. Yeah.
Okay, so they do have collision, but they're just very simple collision.
Yeah, pretty much.
Nice. Yeah, I really like the sort of like 2D, 3D blend. How did you end up deciding on that?
There was our artist kind of specialized in 2D art, so we were definitely going to go for that already. But the kind of 2.5D is kind of inspired by Octopath, Octopath Traveler, kind of that. I think they have a name for it in their game, but it's that 2.5D aspect. I mean, we thought that was beautiful, and because we kind of as a group have worked in 3D Unity more, kind of fit our skill set better. And I think because of the inspiration of Octopath, I think it turned out to be quite a strong aesthetic choice.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's got a bit of like the Mode 7 look to it with the like scaled sort of perspective, I guess, on the floor tiling, and then the nice sort of cast shadows. Looks really nice. Nice and clean, but also a very high amount of polish to it with the... is there a bit of... yeah, there's some depth of field going on in the background as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of what I talked about before, that final trying to get everything in and getting the polish, giving time for polish. Is that one of those things that the strong depth of field was very much in Octopath Traveler as well. So we wanted to really emulate that. So yeah, we got that depth of field in to emulate that.
Nice. All right. So, can you talk a little bit about the actual like development process in terms of like, did you have like temporary artwork in the game, or did you pretty much just like go straight for implementing sprites? Like, how did it all come together?
Yeah, so I basically started on the development while the artist was working on the sprites. So for a very limited time, we had just white squares everywhere. But yeah, once we got the art in, it really just improves your development process, because you know, if you're just stuck looking at white squares moving around, it's very demotivating.
Yeah, and for the UI, we did have an asset pack that we used, kind of as a base to get the functionality in. That eventually kind of screwed us with my implementation being particularly poor.
Oh,
it wouldn't scale properly, but we managed to fix it. But yeah, that asset pack was kind of there so that I could implement it. And then by the end, when all of the enemy and particle work and all that was done, artists did a pass over all of the UI.
nice. Well, I think everything sort of came together. Like, if I go back to the main menu, is this what you mean in terms of like the UI pack, just the sort of simple buttons?
Yeah. I think these buttons are still from the UI pack, or at least only minorly modified. But the health UI was replaced, and things like that. The major this screen was custom made.
Yeah. I've been ignoring the dash ability this entire time. There's only like 2 buttons in this game and a movement, and I've been missing one of them. So that's my bad. I read it and then just promptly forgot to use it.
No.
So what do you think was the most difficult problem that you encountered during the jam, and how did you work to solve it?
Yeah, I can talk about a little bit about this. So one thing about the development that I was really happy with is that we had a little mural board where we had the tasks and the priorities of stuff that we need to do. Because as a developer, I can like very get distracted about stuff that I think that are fun to work at, but you know, at a moment where we don't even have gameplay yet, I wanted to work on shaders, for example, and you know, you get sidetracked by accident. So that was one thing I was struggling with, keeping the focus correctly. But yeah, the other thing was probably the Princess AI. Like in the beginning, there were no speech bubbles, and she was kind of doing random things, and like in my head, I knew what she was doing and it made sense to me. But yeah, that's kind of where the idea for the speech bubbles came. Like if you understood what she was doing, then it made a lot more sense. It didn't seem as random. But yeah, I think honestly everything went pretty well. Besides the mild scaling problem that we had in the end. Yeah.
Okay, I just did a terrible job trying to throw her the sword and missing like twice.
Yeah, it's a high skill feature. There's definitely no tweaking that needs to happen there, right?
Oops.
But yeah, I think for me as well, it was kind of the fact that we had that kind of planning and setup already really helped in that distraction and keeping focus. And yeah, it was kind of the kind of technical stuff. So my lack of technical knowledge definitely caused us some issues with UI implementation and scaling. Eventually, we kind of cheated and just locked the resolution that you play the game in.
Yeah.
But
well, as a
for a game jam game.
Yeah, I mean, as a Unity UI development is like what I do for my day job primarily, and yeah, I've gone down those issues. I've seen all the issues that can crop up, and yeah, getting stuff to scale properly and play nicely is it's not as intuitive as you'd think, and it can like it looks fine in your testing, and then all of a sudden you export it and like it's all broken. And it's like it's a real gotcha for game jams, especially if people are like coming down to the wire and don't know what's coming.
That definitely happened to us more than once.
Yeah, because in the editor it looked fine, and then.
Yeah. So, do you use Unity on your like? Well, yeah, you were saying you do like 3D Unity in your like day to day, right?
Yeah. I've been.
It's...
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's basically just standard Unity. There's not even that many modifications. There's a couple of tool packages that we use that I kind of missed during the game jam, but otherwise it's pretty much standard Unity.
Yeah. Anything in particular? Like, I'm always interested to hear what how folks are using like extension packages to like get more functionality out of Unity.
The big one is it used to be called More Mountains Feedbacks. It's now called Feel, I believe. It's yeah, it's kind of the intent is for it to be used to kind of add easy kind of juice and particles and sound effects to things. But it's a very it's almost a visual scripting tool at this point. It's very powerful, and you can do a lot of things with it as a designer without having to touch code, which is huge.
Yeah, I think I just found it. It's this guy here. It's just pulling it up on the screen.
Yes.
Cool. Well, I'll make sure to take a look at that after the stream. But yeah, that's. I think it's, and so you were saying that you were like missing the functionality of that when you were building this game. So that's something you have like regular experience with, but you didn't have access to in this particular project, right?
No, we
yeah,
don't have it
that's right.
personally. Yeah, we basically all the feedbacks I had to program either with the help of Roy or the other way around, and it's just all custom.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Another package I want to highlight that I really love using as a developer is the it's called Odin Inspector. It basically allows you to expand the Unity editor to a great extent. Like, it just makes development so much easy. You have testing buttons, you can expose things, you can add parameters, you can just create custom UI very easily for Unity, and it's great.
I think I bought Odin forever ago, and then subsequently haven't used it very much. So I need to get a handle on that. I've heard a lot of people have got very good use out of Odin. So, yeah, I guess. Do you have any plans to continue development on the game?
I do think we have plans. It's definitely going to be kind of a hobby project. We do have full-time development jobs outside of this, and other personal projects. But it definitely we felt this has potential, and the initial plans of adding that bomb and adding a couple levels, maybe even an upgrade system. We do want to do that, but it'll kind of happen slowly over time.
Yeah, because I think that there is a fun core concept here. I like the, as you were saying, like the speech bubbles are really important for giving the player that feedback. It would be interesting if you had a little more control over the path the princess takes, but if that's, I mean, what would you say? Is that one of the like fundamental pillars of the game, that she goes the way she wants to?
I would definitely say it's one of the core aspects of it. It's the idea that you are helping the princess, and that she kind of takes the lead. That's also why the camera is only focused on the princess. We toyed around with having it tilt slightly towards you as you moved around. We thought that kind of took away from it. So the princess kind of doing what she wants to do is definitely important. So we want to minimally do that, but there's definitely going to be ways to manipulate. There already kind of is, with if she doesn't have a weapon, she comes after you. And kind of that seems like an interesting kind of emergent behavior that we might want to look into.
Yeah. I guess one of the consistent reasons that I end up dying in the game is because just like stuff, whether it's a weapon or a health potion, just doesn't drop on the screen when I need it. So have you thought at all about how you might design around that, or should I just get good?
So initially, it was actually just weapons and potions were just placed around the map. And we also ran into that issue where it's like, oh shit, we immediately run out of resources and there's just a hard cap to it. So we did add, relatively late into the process, we added the ability for things to drop. So that definitely needs some tweaking. Our hope is that with an upgrade system as well, you kind of increase the amount of drops you get, and slowly get further and further.
Yeah, another thing we talked about was maybe adding dungeons or some more, enclosed spaces where you can, have more a tight experience.
Yeah, because I think this works well in terms of a proof of concept, but if you did go for a more like dungeon or like level-based approach, I think that would be interesting, because it would almost turn it into a bit more of a puzzle than a like just endless survival type game.
Yeah, I do think that the puzzle aspect is definitely important, because we did also kind of design our weapons and enemies around that. The idea being that there's a specific weapon that counters a specific enemy. Like the snakes, they're outside of the range of the sword 99% of the time. So if there's too many snakes, you want to switch to an axe. Kind of that design philosophy, we definitely want to keep that going and emphasize that, I suppose.
Yeah, I definitely was noticing that, like, depending on what... I just got turned into a bloody pulp there. I definitely noticed that there were situations where, if she's getting, like, swarmed by imps, you want to make sure that she has a sword equipped. But, again, I kept running into that central problem of the stuff I knew I needed to give her just wasn't necessarily on screen. So, what are some of the other directions you're thinking about? Do you want to make the spawning a little more generous to the player, or do you want to like give the player a little more control over what they're like sourcing from the world, as it were?
I hadn't considered that entirely. I do think that's a good idea. The aspects of control for the player were really going to be around kind of timing when you switch weapons, when the single use bomb is going to kind of really play into that, as it's going to replace what kind of destroy the current weapon that Princess is holding. But I think that the upgrade system that was planned, which was kind of just damage increases to weapons and all that, that can definitely also play into drop chances, toggling weapons, things of that nature.
Yeah, I was also dabbling with the idea of an inventory, where you could have maybe multiple of an item, but that would take away from the simplicity of just being able to pick up something and throw it. But yeah, if we do go for an approach, then yeah, it's gonna require some more thinking.
Yeah, I guess if there's one thing that I might recommend is making the throw kind of magnetized to the princess. Even if you have to have like a little range that indicates like you are close enough to her that you know that the throw will be successful. Because right now it's really difficult to like successfully throw something. Well, okay, that might just be because I'm playing on keyboard. But does the game have gamepad support?
It actually does. That's something we did throwing kind of last minute, and like the throwing, it does a lot of these last minute features that I think helped propel the game to what it is currently. But yeah, definitely improving current features like the throwing would be high on the priority list.
Gotcha. But yeah, so I guess if you have the ability to, like, I'm almost wondering if it makes sense to have sort of like acknowledge what the princess needs, and then when I said like trying to like source something out of the environment, I had this idea of like instead of finding fully formed weapons in the world, maybe enemies drop like components like metal or wood, and then you actually have to like frantically gather those things up and like craft a specific weapon that you need.
Huh. That is an approach I hadn't considered. It is interesting. I do think that part of the strength of this is just how simple it is. Like it's just you pick up the axe, it does axe things. You pick up the sword, it does sword things. And we do want to maintain that. I mean, a crafting approach could be interesting.
Yeah, like I know it might not necessarily align with the sort of plan you had in mind. I guess I'm trying to think of ways that the player can get a little more agency in the game, because I know that it's kind of a pet peeve of gamers when they win or lose or do well in an experience just kind of based on an AI's performance. So yeah, just sort of thinking about like what else you could do. Oh, that health potion just kind of disappeared. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, there's a bug in the game.
Okay, so you've seen that happen before.
Yeah. I think it was Roy that discovered it. So we added invulnerability frames, and it also acts for when you heal. So if you get damaged and then you heal right after, it doesn't take into account.
Right. I see. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. Like there's sort of two ways you can go with this. Like you can kind of embrace the chaos that the AI will or will not necessarily perform well, but I'm just wondering, like, what else can you do to make the game a little more silly so that you don't get too obsessive over its performance versus, like if the AI does something silly, you can laugh about it instead of being like, no, my high score.
Yeah. I also understand where you're coming from with the crafting. Then you don't necessarily need to pick up the correct item at the right moment. You can craft the item you need at the right moment.
Yeah, just from that sense of like what you need, and then it's just a matter of like, oh well, let me grab these pieces and put them together because I know that that's what she needs right now. So I don't know, like maybe that's a bit too much in the way of mechanical complexity, but I'm just trying to think about ways that, because you don't want to have it just to the point where the player has an inventory of weapons that he's trading with the princess. Like, you always have a sword, you always have an axe, and it's just which one you're giving her at a given moment. Because then that kind of... the whole point is the fact that the princess is acting autonomously and you're just here to help her. But if you are kind of like always giving her the weapons that she needs, then I don't know. It's there's a couple different.
It's a difficult balance with the very concept of the game is kind of that the normally like the normal hero where all the agency is kind of taken away from you.
Yeah.
So the kind of the balance of giving the player enough agency to fulfill kind of the basic idea of a video game, to have player agency, but still keep that concept of you're not the main character, and the main character is the princess.
Yeah.
Is a difficult balance, and I think for this demo for the game jam, I think we struck a decent balance. But if we want to take it further, it definitely needs more consideration.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I really think that a lot of the design choices were up to the fact that okay, we have more days. We have to make this work.
Yeah, because that's like I do want to be like respectful of that sort of core premise in the suggestions that I'm making, because I know that that's what makes this different. That's what makes this special, is the fact that you have this kind of like indirect control. You are meant to be an assist character, and you know, you don't like you want things to be a little hectic. You want things to be a little outside of the player's control. Maybe not this much outside the player's control. Come on, princess, come on. Oh my gosh, if I can recover from this, that would be crazy. No, I'm dead. I cannot beat 1,000. Not happening.
Yeah, I mean, like also something like a spawn cap, you know, that was late in the thoughts that we didn't even get to it. So.
Yeah, I'm wondering if like you can't be the one to get kills, but maybe you can be like help with like body blocking stuff, like just sort of. I know you can like kind of pull aggro, because I see enemies do turn towards you, but right now there's so many guys on screen that it's hard to effectively pull aggro when you also like need to get close to her.
Yeah, that really only works in the beginning, like way early.
Yeah, one of the upgrade ideas for the main character's abilities, kind of that dash, to make that more important. So either to give that maybe knockback on enemies, or to have it destroy projectiles. Kind of those types of ideas did float around. For in 48 hours, that wasn't quite possible. But I think that would also still be in the spirit of the game, but give you at least a little bit more.
Okay, I think I've got one for you. One of my outright favorite mechanics in games comes from positional manipulation. And what if one of your abilities as the squire was to swap places with the princess? So if she's getting like really swarmed by stuff, you can, or like a bunch of projectiles are flying towards her, and you don't think she's going to dodge out of the way in time, you can kind of like trade places with her and then dash out of danger. Yeah,
I'm writing that one down.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
we got
that's
one.
a really good one.
On the board. Oh, you kept me waiting. You gave me some suspense there with the silence.
yeah. I was finding my Miro board to see if I can write it down already.
Cool. Yeah, I just I find that kind of thing to be fun to do. I play a lot of sort of turn-based games, like Into the Breach or even Fire Emblem, where there are these kind of like, you go up near something and you swap its position with yours, or you like pull a unit to the other side of your character. But a game like this, where you can sort of, you can't directly control like how many enemies are swarming the princess, but if you're safe and you can kind of pull her out of harm's way by making the noble sacrifice of putting yourself in harm's way, that kind of seemed like it was thematically resonant.
Yeah, I think it could definitely work. I'm already just so many ideas are popping up now.
Awesome. Well, I love to hear it. So if you do end up making a future version of this game, or if you end up participating in another game jam down the line and want to come back on stream and share the project, I'm always happy to do so. But yeah, as we go to wrap up here, do you have any other projects you want to direct people's attention towards, or social media channels you want them to follow?
Currently, I don't really. Yeah, this was kind of a. This got way bigger than we thought it ever would.
Mm-hmm.
So we're currently just, still in the scramble of dealing with that. I don't know if Pavel does have anything to shout out.
No, I basically was using a different itch channel for the game jams I've done before. This one was like finally my own personal one, and it's the first entry there. But yeah, I just am a collaborator now in the project. So yeah, I'm not really active on social media. I don't really do this as a way to be popular or anything. But yeah, I think this was it was a fun experience, and yeah, it was fun developing and fun to play in the end.
Awesome. So I guess the page that I'm looking at here, this is the artist for the game. This
Yeah.
not sure how to pronounce that.
Yeah.
Wouter van Vught. It's a Dutch name.
Okay.
I can plug his channel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll make sure to
plug
drop
his
that in the. Always do.
He, it's his help definitely skyrocketed this game in creating the page and creating all the art for us. So big thanks to you, Wouter.
So, well, thank you so much for joining me on the stream here today. And if you do have a post-gen version of this, as I said, I'd love to take a look.
Yeah, I think that sounds awesome. So we'll be in touch.
Sounds great.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It was a real pleasure.
Okay, super glad to hear it. Well, yeah, and enjoy the rest of your day, but bye for now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.